Leaders, our planet needs you to act with care and courage. I'd like to ask you to just reflect from your point of view, what do you think is the most important issue, opportunity, challenge facing leaders today, whether we are in a startup, we're in a corporation, we are in a community, we are in an NGO, we're in government. What is that most important issue? What will it take to change leaders? And many years ago, I worked in an explosives factory where we killed 14 people in 2 separate explosions. And we came to a fairly obvious conclusion, which was, if you've got a safety problem, you've got a people problem. If you've got a people problem, because most accidents are caused by people, you've got a leadership problem. In other words, we were the problem. And so we decided we needed to change. We embraced a framework which at the time didn't have the name legitimate leadership. It was based on research done under the auspices of an employers' organization in the gold mining industry into trust in the management of an enterprise. 70,000 miners were asked simply this question: do you trust management? Surprisingly, there were mines where management was highly trusted, against all predictions. And the reason they were trusted, there were matters like pay and benefits, how well management communicated, but it boiled down at the end of the day to a single criteria, which was, are we convinced that you are in the relationship to give to us, not to get anything out of us? In other words, the issue was literally intent or motive. This is true in any relationship you care to mention. And I'm going to take a simple one, a robber and a surgeon. Both of them are doing the same thing. They are cutting you open with a knife. But we trust, we submit ourselves to the surgeon's knife because intuitively we know this person is doing this not very nice thing to help us and heal us, whereas the robber is only doing this in pursuit of self-interest. Now, you can't tell people that you have good intent towards them. They decide. So what does that mean? You may have authority. You actually only have power. You only have people who trust you, are willing and loyal to you when they are convinced that you're actually here to give. You have power by permission. There are 3 implications to this. The first is simply that what we need is an inversion in the line of service. In other words, as leaders, we need to fundamentally understand that we're here to give to our people, not to get something out of them. The second implication here is that you don't have to do anything to motivate people. And the biggest issue, certainly that is believed to be true in the world right now at work, is how do we engage our employees? How do we get, in simple terms, their willingness? Well, you don't actually have to do anything to motivate them, be it sticks or carrots. All you have to do is become the kind of person that they are motivated by. And the third implication is simply this, that growth, and another word for growth is empowerment. Empowerment is not the means, empowerment is the end. In other words, under your leadership, if you get this right, people will be more mature than when you first led them. So, are results important? You bet your bottom line they are important. We don't do anything without a desire to win it. But the way to achieve the results are not to obsess about the results or just constantly measure progress against them, The way to actually increase or improve the results is not to raise the target, it's to raise the standard. In other words, to insist on excellence. And when I say excellence, we include not only excellence in people in the front line, excellence in leaders. So you won't solicit givers, leaders who are givers rather than takers. And by the way, givers beget givers, takers beget takers, until such time as leaders understand, if we're sustainable leaders, our leaders understand that essentially what they need to do is deliberately decide to fundamentally change what they're here to do. They're not here to get results out of people. They're here to actually care for and grow people. Now, 30 years ago, when we first started talking about this, people quite frankly thought that we were smoking our socks. They said, what do you mean? If you want to actually have your interests met, you must pursue them. You're telling us to do the opposite. Yes, we are, we said. We are now 30 years later. 30 years later, people no longer think this is a weird idea. In fact, 9 times out of 10, people just say, yes, but how do we do this? And that's the reason why I wrote this book called Legitimate Leadership in Action. This is a distillation of what the brave men and women in roughly to date 500 organizations have actually done to translate this intent thing actually into practice. So I'd like to conclude. Can you please reflect back on your question? What is the most important current issue for anyone in a leadership role today? Did anyone write down its trust? Did anyone write down its intent or motive? Did anyone simply write down it's about we need a change of heart?